Hi everyone. Not sure who's around. I haven't got the chat window open. I know that it's what is it? Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to those from the other side of the world. And yeah, I was hoping to have more of you here. I was expecting it to be quiet due to being Thanksgiving, but yeah, I hope we get more in, guys. Hi Christy, welcome. Got a few popping in now. Hi Phila, hi Mia, hi Star, hi Zeely, welcome guys, hi Cassandra. Welcome. Hello. Hello. Just trying to get everything organized this morning and the postie rocked up, so to deal with that. Has everybody got their discount? Because discounts are good. It's 30% off all portraits. Hi Dorothy, welcome. And hi Helen. And also if you're a patron, one of my patrons, I have a 50% off this image discount. All of the links are in the description. But let me just grab them and pop them up here anyway for you. And let me get them. Because I wasn't very organized today and I haven't done it yet. So if you're a patron, I've already posted the 50% off this particular image in on Patreon, so you should be able to see it there. And for my lovely viewers, we have 30% off all portraits. So that's grayscale and line art portraits. There we go. There it is, popping it up. So if you click on that, it should automatically go to your cart, but the actual code is Belinda's viewers, so I'll just pop it in the thing there if you can't go through that way. So if you would like to get the 50% off the image, you do need to be a patron, so I've popped the link in the description anyway and you can check it out. It's going to be available for it's 24 to 48 hours. It depends on where you are in the world. For me, it ends a little bit like, yeah, anyway. Grab it while you can, because it doesn't last forever. Hi guys, welcome. Come in. Who else popped in that I just missed? I think that's everybody still. So yeah, grab it while you can. I thought we'd just start with the metal this time, doing this one, and yeah, have a go, have a play. Now I've decided to use Holbeins. I haven't used them very much. In fact, I don't even think I've used them live yet. Has anyone seen me use Holbeins live? I don't think I have. I haven't used them that much. I've used the white a lot. That white, it's really short. There's two different whites in the Holbein set. One's called soft white and one's called white. So I don't know what the difference is. But the pencils are different. They look different. This one's got like a red wood and this has got like a lighter wood. I don't know. Let's have a look. Have a scribble on the back and see what the difference is. Soft white apparently. Ah, it's actually brighter. We'll use that one then. I'm glad I checked. Anyway. Ah, Ah, there you go. One is softer. Well, yeah, but how do you get... I think the actual pencil is softer by maybe. That's why it's brighter. Who knows, really? Who knows? I decided to stick with the theme of Tantone paper because we did the previous one in Tantone. So I thought, why not stick to the same... Oh, this one doesn't sharpen very well. Dear me. So this is the paper I'm using today. 400 series Strathmore Tantone mixed media paper. It's got a vellum surface. It's actually quite smooth, the surface of this paper. I go with the 9x12. It's a little bit bigger than an A4 size page. Oh, that white balance is terrible today. Hi, Janine. Welcome. Yeah, I still haven't got a packet of the grey yet. The art shop here in Bayswater used to sell it, but I can't seem to find any of it on their website. I don't think they're going to stock much of it. They have trouble getting it from the US, and it ends up the pads get bent and things like that. So the lovely Jennifer Zimmermann, she said she might pop in, but she's extremely busy, so if she doesn't, that's fine. We're okay with that, aren't we? Yeah, I need to try it, I think. Mia, you are right. So yeah, shall we get started? I got lots of goodies this week, and you know what, I'm finding I'm getting really stressed out. If it doesn't rain it pours, you know that saying. It's awesome, but I feel like so stressed because I've got so much to get through. I've got a book from Julia Sperry here. I've got a book from Yana Prosperina. I've got a book from Dia Lenahan. I've got a book from... I know there was another one. There's 3, I think, that would like to have something done. But because I'm already like kind of pre-planned, I feel like I don't have time to get everything done, and it just stresses me sometimes. But we will get through it. We will get through it. So welcome, guys, and again, just wishing you all a happy Thanksgiving over the other side of the world. We don't actually celebrate Thanksgiving here because like, it's not, you know, part of our culture, but I know that many of you in the US do. Now I'm going to use the General's white charcoal. And I found this through Lisa Matrokin. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Something like that. Hi, Jennifer, welcome. We weren't sure, we were just discussing whether you were coming or not. And a big thank you so much for the discounts. It is greatly appreciated. Again, all of the links are in the description as well, guys. Hi, Loretta. Welcome. So I'm going to start with all the metal. And before I start, let's just pop some highlights in. Mark them out so we don't colour over them too much. The great thing about this charcoal is that you can actually colour over it, which is kind of cool, but it also at the same time you still cannot colour over it and leave your highlights. I didn't even think, I probably could have rescheduled today's stream for tomorrow or yesterday. All good. make these goggles metal as well. Yes, enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner. Hi Kelly, welcome. Jennifer, yeah, a whole series, that would be cool actually. I'm not sure what is this just a metal box, so let's just put some highlights through here then. The good thing is that Jennifer's done them, she's got a grayscale and also a line art, so if you prefer line art, you can grab line art. I just thought grayscale is just, I don't know, I'm good at grayscale, I like it, so I do it. You know, we do what we're good at and we do what we like. So also in the grayscale there was a light and a dark. I chose to do the dark because I'm doing it on the Tanto paper. I thought it might be a little bit easier to see, and picked it for that reason. These butterflies are pretty, aren't they? So this is called Freedom Fighters, and they're very cute. This little monkey is very cute. Now Jennifer's doing a fur tutorial. Is that right, Jennifer, with the monkey? Have you already done it? Did I miss it? It's possible I missed it. I'm not liking YouTube. It's changed all its dashboard and everything, and it's really hard to find things. And scheduling is really hard. I haven't thought about it very well at all. Another thing to add to the I'm annoyed at YouTube list. Look, if we didn't have a platform like this, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now, so very grateful for that. Oh, you did? Holographic paint sets. It's pretty long at the moment, Mia. It's pretty long. Hey, we've just got to be grateful though for what we have. You can still be frustrated by it though, hey. There actually isn't a lot of metal on here. That's leather. This is metal down here. Clothing, probably leather. give him some shiny on his little hat. Make this leather, but I'll just mark in those lighter areas. Thanks, Helen. Awesome, thank you, Jen. She's just written there, if you're not reading the chat, that she's doing a giveaway and a challenge as well. So check out her group. And I will pop all those links in the description at the end of the video too. I have popped them in my group, which is already in the description. So you can check out all the details there as well. Let's go with that for now. Pearls, welcome and hello. This is what I'm using. Excuse my white balance. You know, I cut myself on it. I was making dog food and I have brought these little takeaway containers for Narre, and the lid cut me. Look at that, it's really red and sore. Anyway, Strathmore Tantone 400 series. This is the mixed media one with the vellum surface. I quite like the surface, it's nice and smooth, and it goes well with pretty much everything I've tried on it. Back to normal. And how did it go, Helen? Was it good? Hello, Abby, darling. Welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. I'm not going to do gold. I'm going to do coppery coloured again. I like the copper. It's pretty. And I'm using Holbeins today, guys, for those who are wondering. Giving them a try. And I'll be writing the colours that I'm using down for patrons, so if you want to check that out, they'll be on Patreon later. I am definitely not going to finish this one today. I never ever finish pencil ones. In fact, I even seem to be rushing the marker ones a little bit, so I want to try to stop doing that, because they don't look as good when they're rushed. Need to take our time. Oh, these pencils are... I haven't used these on Tantone paper before. Needless to say, I haven't used them very much at all, but it's nice on this paper. It's really smooth and really pigmented. Like, I did them on Neenah. This is done on Neenah paper, and it doesn't like Neenah paper at all. It's too soft. You can see it's kind of grainy and bitty, and that's because the paper's got no tooth on it. But this, it's really liking it. Just so important, paper. You need to take that into account when you're doing different projects. I'm yet to try PanPastels on this paper, but Deli uses it with great success, so it'd be interesting. I've done backgrounds with PanPastel, but I haven't actually done a full image, which would be kind of cool. Hi, Stephanie. Oh, okay, Helen, I'll check it out. My printer takes it. I've actually linked my printer in the description because everybody asks me that. Pearl, so check out the description. I use a Epson Workforce printer and it takes it fine. Also, I have a Hewlett Packard laser printer which has flatbed scanning, so flatbed printing. So basically you can stick a piece of paper in one side and it flat prints out to the other side, so it doesn't actually have to roll. So that's the kind of things that you would need to sort of look for when getting a printer. But my Epson Workforce was actually inexpensive, and it works really well with pretty much all papers I've put through it so far. But this is probably the maximum that I've put through it. I think this Strathmore paper is probably the thickest I've got. But I've got some nice thick watercolor papers, and those have all fitted through. Mixed media papers. I think the inks and things can get expensive in inkjets, but I find that when colouring on laser printed images, the laser printing comes off. It sort of rubs off. Whereas with the inkjet, I don't get any of that disappearing on me. And I don't use it for coloured printing, so I only ever really buy black ink, not coloured ink, in the inkjet, so it doesn't end up being that expensive if you're looking at that or taking that into account. Obviously, if you're using colour, you're going to run through them a bit quicker, and it could get expensive. Like spade shapes in here. I tried the rear feed on my Workforce actually, and I had trouble with it, so I need to look at that again. Yeah, some printers have, like, you can open the back up and you can actually just slide it through. Some don't. Hi Dusty, welcome. So yeah. Okay, Abby. Yes, oh, that's another thing. With my laser, it doesn't fit this big paper. I have to actually trim the sides off it, because this is the largest sized paper. It's 9 by 12, and I think the most it fits is an A letter or A4, so... But in my Workforce one, it's an A3 printer, so I can basically put any size paper in it. It's actually called an A3 Plus, so I don't know what that means. But I like the fact that it's A3, because if I'm doing one of the larger colouring books, I can still scan an image and do it on my own paper. He's already starting to come alive. This colour's nice, pretty colour. Some of these areas are quite thin, so I'm not going to need all of my range of metal colours in here. It would be impossible to fit them in. Hi Linda, welcome. Every time I say welcome, it reminds me of Bear in the Big Blue House. Not singing it today. Okay. Move on to the goggles. So for those that are just coming through or in chat, there is a discount for Jennifer's store. It is in the description of the video. If you're a patron, you can get 50% off this page, and there's 30% off for all other portraits in grayscale and line art for everybody else. So if there's a few images that you've been looking at in the store, go use it and scoop them up while you can. I just put an order in at Scrapbook Boutique, I think it's called. The Black Friday sales have already started here in Australia because it's already Friday. Oh my gosh, there is so much stuff on sale. Early Christmas shopping is a good idea today. I haven't even started. I haven't even looked at my. I've written out. I've made a checkbox to put people on my list to buy for, but I haven't added anything to it yet. I really should add it. Just the busiest time of the year. Had just all the kids' birthdays this week. Two of them anyway. So now we've got a birthday party tonight for the 18-year-old. She's having all her friends today. We had the family here on the weekend. Last week, just busy time. I'm going to make that leather, the little band. Make that leather. Very quiet today, sorry. I have things going through my brain. I keep getting Black Friday messages. Hi Nick and Tina, welcome. Alan. Oh, pretty. I think they're existing colours, aren't they? They've just put those colours into a set. Is that right? I don't know how they could possibly make any more colours than they've already got. It's a ridiculous amount. I have been looking into maybe getting some of the Arteza alcohol markers, the Everblend markers. Somebody was asking me to do a conversion, and it's really hard. I'd prefer to have them myself so I could have a play and know how they mix well and together and things like that. It's very hard to recommend a colour conversion if I don't really know what they're like myself. Black Friday, Black Friday. Here is your Black Friday. Black Friday. That's what's coming through on my phone right now. That's what that vibrating noise was. Yeah, I know they're not a brush marker. I kind of thought maybe that might be something that we should sort of do as with patrons anyway, like showing you different types of nibs and how they work as well. There's a slightly different way of using them, but it's not a massive difference. I'm just, these colours are coming out beautiful on this paper. So we've got a Christmas colorathon coming up. The 14th, 13th, 14th, 15th of December. I'm also streaming for another little special stream on the 7th, or might be the 8th for most of you. Actually, no, it might be the 7th, but early morning. So that's coming up. Can't say what yet. Another secret. Looking good. Ah, and that's the alcohol markers, Mia. I haven't actually seen them before. I'm just building up a couple of colours to create my copper. Kind of thickened that edge a little bit actually by accident, but we'll have to make sure we thicken all of it. Otherwise it'll look strange. So I thought we'd do the opposite on this one. I think I did green background and blue clothing. I think we'll do blue clothing and a green background on this one. So I can put them together in my folder. Oh, I finally got some stuff to finish off my Coven book too. I got some stuff for the front cover so I can put my crescent moon on it. So I need to finish that too. See, so much stuff and not enough time. Good. Looking good. It all comes down to funds with all that stuff, hey? Yeah, I'll do the, I'm gonna emboss the cover, so I might do a bit of a video because it'll be a little bit of a test for me. I've never done anything like that. But I've got the powder here, just got that, gold as well. And I got the inks and everything to hold it down, and I'm going to have some fun with that one, I think. Just need to figure out how to get the image onto the page. Might need to make a stencil of some sort to put it on with. So yeah, that'll be a little project. But I wanted to finish it. I haven't stuck all of my images in yet. I've only done what we did live, so still need to add my remaining images in. I've still got some printed that I haven't had a chance to colour. I didn't get time to do it in the time that we had. Probably could have gone for a couple of months, that one. But some people did really well. Got all of the images coloured. I think there was 13 they could do. Pretty awesome. Starting to come into the lighter areas now. I think I need to get the Wicked Witch done from Menaces. I really like that one. And the Wizard of Oz. It's actually one of my favourite movies, and I didn't mind the remake they did. Oz the Great and Powerful, whatever it was, that was good too. Prequel. And I remember watching number 2 Wizard of Oz quite a bit too as a youngster. It's a little bit more dark than the other. Hi Rochelle. Welcome. Hi Deb, welcome guys. Hi Kitty, welcome. Hi Sherry. I am using Holben's. Holben, here you go, you can read that better. Holben Artist Coloured Pencils. Thought I'd give them a try. I don't use them, I haven't used them very much, probably because I know it's going to be hard for me to get replacements, so I just subconsciously have been a little weary about using them, I guess. But I thought I'll give them a try on this paper because I haven't tried them on Tantone paper before, and they're pretty awesome. They're more pigmented than they were on my Neenah paper, which I struggled to use them on. So I might have to do a new colour list on different paper so I can see them more accurately what colours they are. Just coming in towards the white now, gradually coming in. Starting to look good. Now we get to the pink. Holben's, do I like or love them? I'll post these up on Patreon, Sherry, so you'll be able to see these colours. I actually don't mind them. They're not, like, I'm not, like, I don't know. I like the colours. I think they've got a really nice mix of pastel light colours, which I really like. So the colours are different to other sets, which is kind of good. They're really nice on this paper. So actually, I'm more on the I really like them side rather than just like them. I've used them for a few images now. When I first got them, I did a Yana Prosperina image with them. She came out amazing. And I used Sahara's actually pencils to start that one. She gave me them to have a try of first before I brought them. And I don't remember where I bought my set from. It probably was Amazon, I'm gonna say. I don't think they're on Amazon anymore. I think people said they've sold out. I know that you can get single replacement pencils from Japan. There's a guy on eBay who does that. I think people forget about eBay. eBay's pretty good. You can get all sorts of things on eBay. It's a little bit too pink, I think. I might need to add some orange in there. Yeah, this white is extremely light. Look at that. It's extremely soft. I need some yellow. I think. Let's go with this one. That's a bit better. That soft white is really soft white. They layer really well. Need to sharpen that a little bit. Need some detail. Who's that shadow? I have no idea. She was annoying me before I went live and then she disappeared. She might have been sitting in the window, but she's not. She's probably in her bed. Just trying to keep some of this detail so we can see what's actually going on in the glasses here. Otherwise it's just going to look like a blob of colour. And keep all our shadow areas if I can. Yep, this is really soft white. It's like ultra soft white, that one. What are we doing in the background? Blue. Let's do a little bit of blue. Grey blue. And some white over there. Show that shininess. Nice. Nice. Looks good. I'm happy with that. I'm going to make, actually during my colorathon, Alicia and I are going to make some Christmas, we're going to do some place cards for Christmas Day. Something that people can keep. I'm going to do that during the colorathon. Been collecting bits and pieces of craft stock to do it with. I did it a few years ago, and I made personalised gift tags for the presents and things. It was a lot of fun. I like doing stuff like that. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but you get it whether you like it or not. That's what I say to my family. I made it, appreciate it. They can throw them in the bin when I'm not looking, that's fine. Does anyone else have family like that? Linda. Oh, you know what? I probably have plenty of stuff to do it with here already, but of course I had to go out and buy new stuff. Last year I did calligraphy cards for everyone to practice my calligraphy. Not that I'm still very good at it. I have to keep looking at the sheets still. It's just something I just haven't picked up. Just something that you need to do over and over and over again, and because sometimes I don't. I forget. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Kenny. Welcome, sweetheart. Oh, what a great idea. Shaker gift cards. Gift tags. That's clever. I did buy some, Christmas confetti, I guess you'd call it. Christmas confetti. Oh, this white's amazing. Anyone's got Holbens? The white is awesome on Tente paper. Oh dear. I didn't do the middle. Just going to fill that in a little bit. No, go down. Hi Sahara, I'm using Holbens. We were just talking about you before, saying that you lent me the first set to try before I brought them. I don't know how you, I mean it's called Freedom Fighters, but can you really keep butterflies in a cage? Does that work? I guess at our zoo they do. It's a big cage, but they're still in a cage. Let's go to the butterfly house to take some photos, and you can never get any photos. It's usually packed with people. You need to go on a weekday when there's no one around. Oh, Kenny, yeah. I know. Back to that white, that nice pretty white. Looks good. I think I need a little bit more yellow down in here. Do you know what I've realised too, just colouring this in? I've hardly used any pressure yet. I haven't needed to. The colour is really vibrant, and it's smoothing off quite nicely by itself without putting too much pressure in, which is kind of nice. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I just went out the edge, so I am just going to erase that. Because if I'm putting pan pastel on the background, that will actually show up. No, erase is pretty good. Quite happy with how that's working too. Doing well. Holbens are doing well on this paper. Our first little pearl to do. Oh, you guys know me. I'll just say hello to everybody. Until they start being rude. Then they get... yeah. But self-promoting is a little bit rough. Come on, you know. Looks like little smiley faces on those. They look cute. Little bit of yellow. Re-go over with that white just to highlight it a bit. I really had to darken that outside line. That's a bit better. Gosh, it's 10:30 already. An hour flies. Oh, that's why I have awesome mods, eh? Keep on top of it all. think I'm too nice sometimes. I just take people, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes it doesn't go well. It's okay. It's life. It happens. I'm just that type of person. Bat crazy. Oh, don't ask, Sherry. Don't ask what that is. Loretta. Yes, I am. I am, Linda. I do need, yeah. Can't be nice, then what's the use of being here? I'm sure some people live very sour lives. And they are rude and don't think of others. I've had my moments in life, and I like to think that I've learnt from that kind of behaviour, and I think it's not worth it anymore. Worrying about what people think is more draining on you than them, that's for sure. Just extending that white to the edge of the pearly bit there. It's very cool. I really do like how this is coming out. I really like these pencils on this paper. Why haven't I tried it before, peoples? Why? I don't know. And the only reason I thought about using them was because I had them out. Because I'm organising a 30-day blending challenge for patrons. Hopefully we'll be starting it at the start of December if I can get it finished. And yeah, I was just going through and making sure some of the colour matches and things were working, and I had them out. So my idea was that, you know how we have all these 30-day challenge things? Well, one of my patrons, maybe it was one of you, I don't remember, suggested doing a daily something. So I thought, well, I guess the thing that people struggle the most with is blending. So let's do a 30-day blending challenge with a different colour blend each day. Markers and pencils, and then you can practice, and then in 6 months time you can do the challenge again, and you can see There you go. Terrific. Looking good. Gonna need a little bit more white here. And then if that goes well, we can do something else for 30 days. Oh, good, guys, because you guys are all patrons, so you guys just blending, like, people have trouble blending colors, especially marker, pencil. So yeah, just a whole heap of color blends that I've put together. So maybe this copper color might be in it, but on the list it'll have the Copic version of it, so people can have a go at Copics, or the pencil version if we don't have Copics. It's my idea anyway. We'll see if it works or not. See if everybody enjoys it, if they learn anything from it, or if it's just a pain. It might be annoying doing daily videos. But I figured Christmas is a time where some people don't have time to colour, so why not just do something little every day so you don't lose your oomph and your mojos. Who does that? Who goes on holidays and loses their mojos? Certainly happens. A lot of things, actually. Happens with a lot of things. On this paper, I totally agree, Sahara. It's amazing. And I haven't seen the colour so vibrant before. Like, they're just beautiful. I might have to do a swatch chart on this paper. Because, yeah, they're really, really nice. Here and finish this bit off. And I was just saying that I don't really need to put any pressure down. It seems to be working really well. I don't know, it's just layering really nicely and nice and smooth straight away. But Strathmore Tantone paper, if you haven't tried it, you do really need to try it. And yes, I need to try the grey too. actually, Sahara, did Drew go with you to England when you went? I just wanted to know. Because we were talking about you yesterday. If you're still there. It looks so cool. Look at it. It's gonna look cool. Definitely needed more yellow in that mix. It looks good. No, he didn't. I didn't think he did. Yes, I went and visited my grandparents and came up in conversation. I still reel on, like, you know, my mind just goes mind boggled with how small the world is, I tell you. Just adding a little bit of depth underneath the monkey's tail, so we can see a bit of a shadow there. That's a bit better. It's kind of just sitting. I think that was a screw. I think that was a screw there. I'm not sure. So I could be wrong, but there's one there now. Yeah, it looks like there was. I think it's a bit high up, but that'll do. It's there again. Van life. I'm guessing that means that you go and live in a van. There's actually a young girl I actually watch. She's a YouTuber. Her name's currently Hannah. She's an Australian girl and she travels around the world, and she did a video on living in a van actually for a little while with her partner. Worth watching. I stumbled across her somehow. I don't remember how. But I love her videos. It's just my dreaming about going to other countries. Not that I ever would, I don't think, but never really been a good traveller because of my ears. It's hard to fly. And I get travel sickness too. Hi. Someone who's visiting me. Tea time. Thank you. This cup actually has tea time written on the front of it too. Thank you. Yeah, I know. put it on this side so I don't knock it over. Kind of left-handed. It's really weird. I know I color right-handed, but I do pretty much everything else left-handed. I had my stepsister got married in Hawaii. Needless to say, I couldn't go. Now, I can fly. I've flown a little bit over the last few years. Because I actually have a permanent hole in one of my eardrums, pretty much deaf in that ear. And it wasn't quite so bad because there's not as much pressure. But my other eardrum is still quite intact but very, very weak, so I just have to be really careful. I don't want to go completely deaf if I can help it. Yep, this is cool. I'm liking it so far. What are we thinking? Any thoughts on this? How's it looking? I think it looks pretty cool. Let's start on some leather, I think. Just gonna a bit more depth in some of those areas. Trying to cover over all of the grey if I can. Hi Marika, welcome. Adhesive plaster on your stomach is supposed to help car sickness. Huh. I don't know why I get car sick. Ever since I was a kid, we go on long trips. We used to camp a lot as kids, so with our parents, and I always ended up in the front seat of the car because I'd just get so sick. I'm sure my mum hated it, but yeah, I need to find some colours now for I can't really trust this thing though because the colour's going to be different. Ah dear. Something quite dark. I need some. It's a dark colour. Sepia is a dark colour. Let's go with that. Hi Brian. Welcome. Oh Sherry, you did start though. You did start to do something. Yeah, I hate it. It's horrible, isn't it? Loretta. Let's do it. I don't want it to be too orange because we've already got all the orange from the gold or the copper, so I kind of want it to be more of a neutral kind of brown if I can. I don't know how it's going to work, but we'll give it a go. Gotta remember to drink my tea so it doesn't go cold. Gosh, half an hour left. See if we can finish this leathery section. Big thanks to those that came along, especially if it is Thanksgiving. I understand people have busy stuff going on at this time of the year. For me, it's not Thanksgiving, it's birthdays. Oh dear. Got a few birthdays in December still. One's on 2 on Boxing Day, actually. 2 family members from the same family. How cool is that? Lucky you for being on an island. Hi, Joseph. I'm gonna go with chocolate colour, I think. This is all new, remember? It might not work, but we'll give it a go. This chat is just about whatever you want to chat about. We're talking about all sorts of things. We were currently speaking about traveling. And we've spoken about pencils and artists. Lots of things. I think we should make those buckles in that gold colour as well, that brassy kind of colour as well. Yeah, I think that might be too red. It's not too bad. Let's go with this one. Got my colour lists out, just searching, but as I said, these colours aren't going to be accurate because this paper is so different. Just loving the colour on this paper. Might be a little bit orange. I'm thinking maybe an umber or something might help with that. Usually umber's got a bit of a green kind of colour to it, hasn't it? Let's try that. I went out the lines again. Just going to erase it because I want to use PanPastel in the background. And the wax or oil, whichever's in the pencils, will stop that from going on smoothly in those areas. Now, let me check. Got a raw umber, a beige, actually. Beige might look good. Sand, beige. I'm sharpening my pencils here as I go too, because some of them I have only just done swatching with, and there's still a bit of a coating on the outside of the leads. So just trying to get that off there. Might be too light. I think it might be alright. We just come back in with another layer of the darker colours. And a little bit more white at the end just to highlight these sections again. Welcome. That's one country I've always been interested in visiting, and Japan for some reason. Culture, don't know. Oh, goodness me. Just covered over my buckle. How did that happen? Don't know. There we go. We're going to make that gold. Actually, it's not gold, it's kind of brassy. We're going to make that metal looking. Not generally. I don't play music because of the whole copyright thing. I tend to pick my music pretty carefully through Artlist, so I don't have to worry about copyright strikes and things like that. Which I pay for, and it's worth it. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to hear me. Well, that's a good goal. Oh Mia, that's such a pain. I hate that, going onto the wrong Amazon. If I'm buying on Amazon US, it has to be coming from Amazon US, and then I can buy it. Otherwise, they don't ship. actually. Otherwise, they just won't send it. Basically, we can only buy from Amazon if we buy from Amazon US. It's weird. Having some weird messages come through. We don't talk about religious stuff or political stuff in here. That's one thing that we don't talk about. Just in case, anybody, was wondering, I'm just going to pop them back up here again. Actually, when I was a kid, that was one of the things that that we were always taught, is that you don't talk about, unless you're in a like-minded group of people, of course, but you don't talk about religion, politics, because if you want your conversations to be polite, then it's just best left unsaid. Because not everybody has the same views. A fuzzy peach donut. Somebody said that once before. You gained 5 pounds today, Rochelle. I thought that calories didn't count on public holidays or special events. Well, that was my theory. You would just make it your birthday every day, wouldn't you? Fuzzy peach or a donut. I can't wrap my head around those two things together. Yeah, I really do like peach things though. I love the smell of peach. White peach. I like peach. I've got peach coloured, peach flavoured, I can't even say it. Peach smelling deodorant. I like it. It's pretty. Alright. So we've gone with like a really dark leather colour. With some faded worn sections. And some white. Shiny sections. Let's add this, excuse me, cup of tea making noises there. These buckles can be that brassy colour. Just like that. Ooh, peaches. That sounds good, Helen. I don't know what my state is good for. Canola? I don't know. Oh, my ears are ringing. My computer's so noisy lately. I'm gonna move it onto the floor, I think. It's just getting too noisy. It's gonna start to get hot here too, so we'll have air conditioners as well. We're looking at getting an air conditioner for our bedroom. We have a big fat dog sleeping with us now, so it gets quite warm in there. Kicked her out into her own bed last night, and she ends up climbing back in at like 2 in the morning, and I just can't figure out why I can't wake up for that, but I have the worst sleep. She's cheeky, that dog. Putting some white highlights on the metal parts. I'm just going to come back in and just darken up those darker areas. be my garage door. So on Monday, I think we'll do some Julia Sperry. We'll go through her book and do a flip through. And then on Friday next week, we'll do Dear Lenahan's new book. And on the weekend, there's something going on, so I might do Yana's then. She's got a new Christmas seasons colouring book. And I'm still waiting on books from Anastasia Koldeva and also from a new artist that I haven't shown before. I've got 2 coming from her. I've got so much to go. So much to fit in. Alright, I think I'm pretty happy with that so far. Let's do... just doing the little holes on the buckle bit there. I'm thinking maybe... I don't know. I can't decide. I'm having a moment of no decisions. I'm going to make these keys dark in colour. I actually only have 10 minutes left, so try and... well, it's been an interesting chat this morning. Interesting things going on. A little bit of white. Oh, thanks so much, Helen. Yeah, don't spend too much on Black Friday. Seriously. Root beet and ice cream? Ew, what's root beet? Is that like beetroot? Like the red stuff? Tea's gone. I think I'll have to find a colour for all of the ropes and the things. I don't want to do the same colour as the other parts. Or do I? Don't know. Any ideas or thoughts on that? Chuck them at me. I'm all ears or eyes, because I technically can't hear you, but that reminds me of Ghostbusters. Oh, it hurts my ears, and he covers his eyes. Oh, that's a part of that. Nah, we'll do that in there. Silver is just greys. Yeah. Excuse me. I have a couple of combos on Patreon, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, let's go that one. Usually cool greys, like, because cool greys have got a bit of blue in them. So yeah, I figured I wouldn't start on skin today because we did that last time. Thought we'd just go straight into metal and have a go at that. But if you wanted to see the Luminance skin combo, I did in the other Jennifer Zimmermann video. That came up pretty awesome. It is crazy. Yeah, Sahara. I can't remember what I did because I think pretty sure I got mine from Amazon. But yeah, there's companies that here in Australia that you can, or in the US, I don't know where they're based, but you can actually, you have to order through them and they send it, so Japan will send it to that courier company and then they send it off to here in Australia. Someone did say to me that I might have trouble getting them in here though through customs because they're, I don't know, something about the wood in them. They don't tell you what's in them. I don't know. So if it doesn't get through customs, then obviously that's you wearing that cost though. I like how that came out. It looks cool. Some pleasant surprises here this morning. It's been wonderful. Yeah, there's something about the wood that they won't list what the wood actually is or something is the reason that most customers are like, no, they can't come through. So I think just be wary of that. It's not that they're not safe, it's just that they don't declare what's in the wood. Or what the wood is or something like that. That's what I heard anyway. Could be wrong. And Mia, Chad's been kind of crazy for the last few weeks. Don't know what's going on. Don't know. I'm thinking I might use that colour in these bands. I'm thinking I should probably actually be done, shouldn't I, guys? Basically, you can't eat them. Well, they're pencils. We don't eat pencils. We're adults here. And we don't eat pencils, okay? And if you're not an adult and you're watching, don't eat pencils. They're not edible. Goodness me. Thanks, Janine. Hi, Rain. Welcome. We're actually going to finish up, so just no, you can't eat it, Dusty. Just don't eat it. It's not for food. Pencils are friends, not food. I'm sure Nani would not agree with me. She believes that she can eat everything. You name it, she's eating it. She's a shocker. We're constantly stopping her and going, what are you eating? What have you got in your mouth? Nani, what have you got in your mouth? She just picks up random things off the ground and eats them. It's a little frustrating. Nani's a dog, by the way, if you didn't know. I think that was a good choice there. Goes well. I might need to go over those buckles again and just darken up the darkest areas so we get plenty of contrast there. But I'm going to head off. I'm going to go. It's almost lunchtime here, so time for some food. But yeah, I think there's still a few bits of tweaking I need to do in the buckles and stuff, but I'm happy with that. And I'll do the same colour here. I might do this dark colour on this band here around her waist there. And then I'm going to do blue background this time, so probably some sort of green through the clothing and maybe some dark hair, black maybe. But yeah, that's it. I'll finish the rest off, and I will do a Patreon raw video for this one, and I'll also post up the colours I just used today as well for you soon. So thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to Jennifer. Make sure you grab your images. Don't forget the 30% off discount can be used on any portrait in her shop, line art or grayscale, and if you're a patron you can actually get 50% off this image as well, so pop over to my Patreon and have a look there. But that's it guys, thank you so much. Thanks Jennifer, happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate, and I will see you on Monday. Bye guys.